The calm of the night sky over Earth's oceans was broken by a sudden alert in a quiet control room far from the cities. The room was small, filled with blinking screens, scanners, and the low hum of machinery. For months, a team of scientists and military specialists had been monitoring deep space, scanning for unusual movements or signs of life beyond the solar system. They expected anomalies, strange signals, even rocks from distant asteroids, but nothing had prepared them for what they were seeing now. On one of the monitors, a massive object drifted slowly, almost lazily, into the outskirts of the solar system. At first, it looked like another asteroid, but its shape was unlike anything natural. Its surface was smooth and reflective, with edges that caught the sunlight in a way that made it seem almost alive. Energy readings spiked across multiple sensors. This was not just a rock. Something or someone was out there. The scientists exchanged nervous glances. The military liaison on the team immediately called in reinforcements. Soon, every major space command center was buzzing with the news. An unidentified vessel was entering the solar system. It was enormous, dwarfing even the largest human-built spacecraft. Its movement was deliberate, slow but unmistakably controlled. It wasn't fleeing. It wasn't hiding. It was observing. Governments around the world went into immediate action. Emergency meetings were held, secure channels opened, and the global population remained largely unaware of the looming arrival. Earth had prepared for natural disasters, nuclear threats, and even regional conflicts in space. But first contact with a truly alien civilization? That was uncharted territory. For humanity, the question was no longer whether the object posed a threat. The question was what it wanted in orbit above the Pacific. The battleship known as Aegis 01 prepared for deployment. Built in secrecy, it was humanity's most advanced spacecraft, a symbol of both defense and pride. Despite its impressive size and advanced weapons, it had never been used in an actual confrontation. Today, that was about to change. Orders came through, clear and urgent. The ship was to intercept the alien vessel, observe and only engage if absolutely necessary. Its mission was not to provoke, but to protect. The crew aboard Aegis 01 worked with quiet precision. Every system was checked, every protocol reviewed. They were aware that the eyes of the world, or perhaps of the galaxy itself, were on them. Outside the reinforced viewports, the black void of space stretched endlessly, dotted with stars and the faint blue glow of Earth below. And there, against the darkness, the alien vessel floated, massive and silent, its sheer presence commanding attention. Inside the ship, the crew could feel a strange mix of fear and awe. Fear, because no one knew the intentions of the beings aboard that mysterious vessel. Awe, because it was the first time humans had come face to face with something that truly existed beyond imagination. It was a moment that would be remembered in history, yet also a moment fraught with tension. Meanwhile, on Earth, the scientists at the control centers worked to decode the alien signals. Early attempts to communicate produced nothing understandable, just patterns of light and sound that didn't match any known human or natural language. Despite the uncertainty, the messages seemed deliberate. Someone or something was trying to reach out. News of the unidentified object eventually filtered through the media, though governments kept most details classified. Citizens could see some strange lights in the night sky and hear reports of unusual readings from satellites. But the truth of the encounter remained hidden. Social media buzzed with speculation, theories, and wild guesses. But no one could have imagined the reality, that humanity's first contact with an alien civilization was unfolding above them. Back on Aegis 01, the ship's sensors scanned the vessel. Its technology was unlike anything humans had seen. Energy readings fluctuated unpredictably, and even the most advanced computer systems struggled to analyze them. The ship seemed almost organic in the way it absorbed, and redirected energy. The crew realized that these beings had technology far beyond human capability. But surprisingly, they showed no signs of hostility. It was a strange calm that made the situation even more tense. The captain of the battleship gave the order to approach cautiously. Every movement was deliberate. Aegis 01 glided through space, silent and steady, approaching the alien ship with measured precision. The crew held their breath as the distance closed. Every sensor reading was analyzed, every communication attempt logged. For hours, nothing happened. The alien vessel remained stationary, almost as if it were waiting. The tension aboard the battleship grew. Every member of the crew was acutely aware that any sudden action could trigger a reaction they couldn't predict. Then, without warning, the alien vessel emitted a burst of light. It wasn't a weapon, but a signal. The patterns were complex, shifting in ways that seemed almost musical. The scientists and military experts immediately tried to interpret the meaning. Was it a greeting? A warning? Or merely a way to test human response? No one could tell. The moment marked the beginning of a silent dialogue. Humans had been preparing for this moment for decades, but reality was far different from theory. There was no script, no guideline, just the weight of responsibility pressing down on every decision. The crew realized that every move, every signal, every hesitation mattered. One wrong choice could escalate into something catastrophic. Yet, amidst the tension, there was a sense of possibility. Perhaps this could be the start of something greater than anything humanity had imagined. Real communication with an intelligent species beyond Earth. As the first day passed, Earth's leaders continued to watch in awe and apprehension. The alien vessel had not acted aggressively, yet its presence was undeniable, impossible to ignore. Humanity was on the edge of a new era, one where the stories told in science fiction could finally become real. And while fear and uncertainty remained, so did a spark of hope, the hope that the first contact could be peaceful, that Earth could step onto the galactic stage not with conflict, but with the cautious confidence of a civilization ready to meet the unknown. Night after night, the alien ship remained near the moon's orbit, silent yet imposing. Humanity had never felt so small, and yet so significant. Aegis 01 remained nearby, a silent guardian, ready to defend but never to attack. Every crew member understood the weight of their mission. They were the bridge between two worlds, two species, two ways of life. Their actions would not just define the outcome of this first encounter, but the path of humanity in the galaxy for years to come. And in that quiet, tense orbit, a human crew stared into the vast darkness, watching the alien vessel, wondering what it would think of them, what they might learn, and whether the universe was about to open its doors to humanity or close them forever. After the first day of observing the alien vessel, humanity realized that waiting would not be enough. The signals from the ship were deliberate, almost like someone was trying to speak, but there was no way to understand the language. Every pattern of light, every pulse of energy seemed meaningful. Yet it made no sense in terms of Earth's technology or communication systems. On Earth, teams of linguists, scientists, and cryptographers worked around the clock, trying to decode the signals. They compared the patterns to human languages, computer codes, even the communication of animals. Nothing matched. The signals were too advanced, too precise, and at the same time, oddly organic. Some of the scientists suggested that the ship itself was alive in some way, that it might think or feel like a being, rather than function like a machine. In the control room aboard Aegis 01, the crew tried to make sense of the strange pulses. They had come trained for combat, for defense, for exploring the unknown, but nothing had prepared them for this. Every member of the crew was acutely aware that they were the first humans to encounter an intelligent species from another star. The weight of history pressed on them, but so did curiosity. the captain ordered a cautious response. Small, controlled bursts of light and sound were sent back to the alien vessel, carefully designed to avoid any hint of threat. The crew watched anxiously as the ship seemed to pause. For a long minute, nothing happened. Then, as if in reply, a pattern of energy flickered across the alien hull, brighter and faster this time. It was rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat dot. It became clear that the aliens were observing humanity as much as humans were observing them. Every response from Aegis 01 seemed to trigger a reaction. It was a silent, delicate dance, one wrong move of which could be misunderstood. Every crew member understood the stakes. This was not a test of strength, but a test of patience, understanding, and intelligence. On Earth, the public had begun to notice unusual activity in the skies. Satellites captured images of the vessel near the moon, and the media buzzed with speculation. Conspiracy theories spread, some claiming the aliens were hostile invaders, others suggesting they were explorers who came in peace. Governments chose to release minimal information, enough to prevent panic, but not enough to reveal the true nature of the encounter. Meanwhile, the scientists aboard Earth's space stations and monitoring facilities developed a way to send more complex signals, using mathematical patterns and universal constants that any intelligent species might recognize. These were carefully structured pulses of light and energy, sent in a pattern designed to suggest communication, not aggression. Hours passed. Days passed. Slowly, the alien vessel began to respond in ways that humans could interpret. Patterns emerged, sequences repeated, and a basic form of dialogue started to take shape. It was crude, simple, but it was communication. Humans realized they were not alone, that the beings aboard the ship were trying to understand them, just as humans were trying to understand the ship. Aboard Aegis 01, the crew began experimenting with more direct responses. They projected shapes, symbols, and movements designed to mimic human gestures and emotions. The alien vessel responded by altering its shape and light patterns, creating a visual display that suggested curiosity, even cautious friendliness. Every crew member was fascinated. This was not just a scientific achievement, it was a profoundly human moment. For the first time, humanity was engaging with another form of intelligence, and it was happening in real time, right above their planet. The excitement and tension mingled in the air, and even routine operations felt charged with meaning. On Earth, leaders debated the next step. Some argued that any further approach could be dangerous, that humans had no way to predict alien intentions. Others insisted that dialogue must continue, that fear could not dictate first contact. In the end, they agreed on a cautious but proactive approach. Continue sending signals, continue observing, but prepare defensive systems just in case. Back on Aegis 01, a breakthrough occurred. One of the crew members realized that some of the alien signals were repeating in a way that matched basic arithmetic sequences, suggesting the aliens might understand mathematics. Using this, the crew sent sequences representing prime numbers, geometric shapes, and simple ratios. Within hours, the alien vessel responded in kind. The patterns became more complex, resembling a form of logical conversation rather than random signals. The realization hit everyone. This was truly intelligent life. It was not a machine mindlessly moving through space, nor a simple animal instinctively acting. This species, whatever they were, was capable of thought, reasoning, and perhaps even emotion. Humans were no longer the only intelligent beings in their corner of the galaxy dot. As the days passed, a tentative rhythm developed. Signals were sent and received with care, patience, and mutual curiosity. The alien vessel seemed to mirror human gestures of caution and exploration. At times, it would retreat slightly, as if testing the limits of trust. At other times, it would expand its presence, showing intricate displays of light and energy that fascinated the crew. Every crew member aboard Aegis 01 felt a profound connection to the unknown. Despite the vast differences in appearance, technology, and culture, there was a shared sense of awareness. Humans and aliens were attempting to understand each other, reaching across the void with nothing but signals and intention. On Earth, the experience inspired awe and reflection. Scientists, engineers, and ordinary citizens watched the slowly unfolding contact with fascination. This was a reminder of humanity's potential, the capacity to explore, learn, and connect. There were challenges, of course. Misunderstandings could occur, interpretations could be wrong, and the aliens' true intentions remained unknown. But the very act of communication, the attempt to bridge the gap between worlds, was itself a triumph. For the crew of Aegis 01, every moment was a lesson in patience and humility. They could see now that first contact was not about demonstrating power or superiority. It was about listening, observing, and responding with care. The alien vessel, enormous and imposing, had not attacked. It had not demonstrated hostility. It had merely waited and responded. As if curious about what humans might do next. The tension aboard the battleship remained high. Any sudden move could be misinterpreted. Yet, a quiet sense of excitement grew. Humanity was learning, adapting, and stepping into a larger universe with every signal sent and received. The crew often stayed at the observation windows for hours, staring at the alien vessel, marveling at its elegance and the mystery it represented. One of the most remarkable aspects of the encounter was how human it all felt. The crew found themselves experiencing wonder, fear, curiosity, and hope all at once. Despite being so far from Earth, in the silent void of space, they were reminded of what it meant to be human, to question, to seek understanding, to reach out even when the outcome was uncertain. As the first week of communication came to an end, it was clear that a cautious relationship was beginning. There was trust, fragile but real. Humans and aliens were learning to interpret each other's signals, to recognize intention and meaning. It was not perfect, but it was progress. Aboard Aegis 01, the crew held a quiet celebration. No words were spoken, no cheers were made, but there was a sense of shared accomplishment. Humanity had taken its first steps into the wider galaxy, not with weapons or conquest, but with curiosity, patience, and the courage to communicate. The alien vessel remained nearby, silent at times, radiant at others. Its presence was a constant reminder that the universe was larger, stranger, and more wondrous than anyone had imagined. Humans had made the first contact, and while the journey ahead was uncertain, there was a growing belief that peace was possible, that understanding could be achieved, and that humanity was ready to meet the unknown with open minds and cautious hearts. And so, the story of first contact continued, not with conflict or fear, but with signals, light, and the tentative beginnings of dialogue between two intelligent civilizations. It was a moment that would be remembered forever, not for the battleships or the technology, but for the human spirit that reached across the stars to make itself known. For days, communication between the humans aboard Aegis 01 and the alien vessel had been steady, careful, and fascinating. Signals were exchanged, patterns decoded, and a fragile trust was forming. Every crew member on the battleship felt the weight of history pressing down upon them, but there was also a sense of excitement, of curiosity, and of accomplishment. Humanity had reached out, and something out there had responded. But in space, even the smallest misunderstanding could spiral quickly into danger. It began with a routine maneuver. Aegis 01 needed to adjust its position slightly, moving closer to the alien vessel to improve sensor readings. The captain issued careful orders, slow and deliberate, to avoid any sudden movements. The crew executed the adjustments perfectly. On the human side, everything seemed normal, calm, and necessary. On the alien side, however, the signals told a different story. The vessel reacted in unexpected ways. Energy spikes and rapid pulses lit up its surface. The humans interpreted them as curiosity, perhaps even excitement. But in reality, the alien sensors had misread Aegis 01's movement as something aggressive, a preparation for an attack not suddenly. The calm of the orbit was shattered by an unexpected flare of light from the alien ship. It wasn't aimed at humans directly, but the patterns were defensive in nature, an instinctive response to a perceived threat. Sensors aboard the battleship detected sudden fluctuations in the alien vessel's energy shields. As if it were preparing for combat, the crew froze. Everyone knew the stakes. A single wrong move could trigger a chain reaction neither side could stop. The aliens, interpreting human caution as potential hostility, began activating their own defense systems. Tiny drones or automated defense units emerged from the ship, moving in unpredictable patterns. To the humans, they looked like small flashes of light dancing around the alien vessel. But the signals indicated a serious defensive posture. Inside the battleship, alarms rang softly, and the crew scrambled to understand the situation. The captain tried to establish communication immediately, sending rapid signals designed to clarify human intentions. "We mean no harm. Stand down." The messages repeated, using the patterns that had been partially understood in the previous days. But the response was slow, hesitant, and fragmented. The aliens were operating on instinct, not logic. For hours, the two sides engaged in a tense, silent standoff. The humans carefully moved to maintain a safe distance, avoiding sudden maneuvers, while the alien vessel's drones hovered near its surface, creating a delicate but dangerous barrier. The crew could feel the anxiety in the room, a tension that seemed to echo across the vastness of space. Every crew member knew that any misinterpretation could lead to disaster. On Earth, scientists and officials monitored the situation closely. Analysts tried to decode the sudden spikes in energy, the changes in drone movement, and the rapid bursts of light. The data suggested that the aliens had not intended aggression initially, but the humans' approach had triggered a defensive reaction. Leaders debated whether to intervene directly, issue public statements, or simply wait. Every decision carried weight. Inside Aegis 01, the crew worked tirelessly. They ran simulations, calculated probabilities, and prepared contingencies. Every signal sent to the alien vessel was designed to reassure, to clarify, and to prevent escalation. Crew members had to remain calm under pressure, ignoring the natural fear that came with facing a civilization whose technology far surpassed their own. Hours felt like days as the standoff continued. The human crew realized that the aliens were not hostile, they were cautious. They had never encountered a species like humanity, one capable of rapid, unpredictable, and yet intelligent action. In a way, the misunderstanding was almost inevitable. The vast differences in physiology, perception, and technology meant that even the most careful approach could be misread. The turning point came when a young crew member suggested a new method of communication. Instead of sending complex signals that might be misinterpreted, they would send a simple, continuous pattern of calm, steady pulse that indicated no aggression. It was like a heartbeat, a universal rhythm that might be recognized as peaceful. The captain agreed. The crew synchronized the battleship's systems to send the steady pulses, projecting them outward toward the alien vessel. The patterns were repeated, consistent, and unmistakable in their intent. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the alien drones began to retreat toward the ship's surface. The energy spikes faded, and the flashes of light grew softer, less urgent. The relief aboard Aegis 01 was immense, but the crew knew the danger was far from over. The aliens had not yet fully understood humanity, and humanity had not yet fully understood the aliens. The first misunderstanding had been minor, but it could have escalated into full-scale conflict. It was a stark reminder of how delicate first contact truly was. Despite the tension, the experience brought the humans closer together. The crew shared a quiet sense of camaraderie, bonded by the knowledge that they had navigated a near disaster without firing a single shot. Each member understood the importance of patience, observation, and careful judgment. They also understood that communication was more than just signals. It was about empathy, perception, and respect for another species' instincts. For the alien vessel, the retreat of the drones and the calming signals were met with hesitation. It did not move closer immediately, nor did it send aggressive patterns. Instead, it seemed to observe, to study the humans and their responses. The vessel's behavior suggested intelligence, curiosity, and a cautious willingness to continue engagement. On Earth, analysts noted the change in the alien signals. The data indicated that the aliens had recognized the human intention to communicate peacefully. There was no celebration, no fanfare, but there was hope. Humanity had passed a test of restraint and understanding, and the aliens had, in their own way, acknowledged it. The misunderstanding had lasting effects. Humans became even more cautious, double-checking every maneuver, every signal, and every message sent to the alien vessel. Procedures were rewritten, new protocols introduced, and communication methods refined. The incident served as a valuable lesson in humility. Despite all of humanity's technology, knowledge, and preparation, first contact remained unpredictable, fragile, and full of potential danger. For the crew aboard Aegis 01, the alien misunderstanding became a story of resilience and learning. They realized that diplomacy in space was not about showing power, issuing threats, or dominating. It was about understanding, adapting, and responding with patience. Every crew member carried this lesson in their minds, knowing that the next interaction could be just as tense, just as critical, and just as historic. In the quiet moments after the drones retreated and the alien vessel stabilized, the crew reflected on what had happened. They looked out at the immense blackness of space, at the alien ship floating silently against the backdrop of stars, and felt the magnitude of the moment. Humanity had survived its first misunderstanding, and in doing so, had proven that it could navigate complexity, danger, and the unknown with intelligence and care. Yet, even in the relief, there was anticipation. The humans knew that the alien vessel had immense power, far beyond anything Earth had ever seen. The standoff had been a warning of what could happen if trust faltered. The crew remained vigilant, aware that the next challenge might require not only communication, but demonstration, courage, and ingenuity. Through the tension, a quiet sense of optimism emerged. The aliens had not attacked. They had responded to peaceful signals. The misunderstanding had been resolved, and humanity had learned valuable lessons about patience, clarity, and perception. The stage was set for the next chapter in First Contact, a chapter that would test human ingenuity and courage in ways no one could yet imagine. The alien vessel remained near the moon's orbit, massive, silent, and enigmatic. Humans continued to observe, study, and communicate, taking careful, measured steps forward. The misunderstanding had reminded them of the stakes, but it had also shown that peaceful engagement was possible. It was a delicate balance, a dance of caution and curiosity, and humanity had taken its first successful steps. The experience strengthened the crew's resolve. They knew that every interaction with the alien vessel could redefine humanity's place in the galaxy. The lessons of the misunderstanding, patience, clarity, respect, and careful observation would guide their actions in the days to come. Humanity had faced its first real test in space, and while uncertainty remained, so did hope. And so, the first misunderstanding passed, leaving humans and aliens on tentative, cautious terms. A fragile trust had been established, one built not on power, but on understanding. Both civilizations had glimpsed each other's intentions, strengths, and patience. The stage was set for the next encounter, where humanity would show not only its intelligence, but the potential of its courage and determination. The crew aboard Aegis 01 continued their vigil, watching the alien vessel, sending signals, and learning. They understood that in the vast emptiness of space, every decision mattered. Misunderstandings could be fatal, and trust had to be earned step by step. Yet, despite the danger, the crew felt a sense of wonder. They were part of something larger than themselves, a moment that would shape history, define humanity's first con. The tension in space had been building for days. Communication with the alien vessel had improved after the initial misunderstanding, but both sides remained cautious. The aliens were intelligent, deliberate, and unpredictable. Every signal, every movement was carefully observed. Humanity had learned to respect their intelligence, but so far, they had only glimpsed a fraction of the alien ship's capabilities. Aboard Aegis 01, the crew had been preparing for all possibilities. Defensive protocols were active, shields were monitored constantly, and every weapon system was ready but unarmed unless absolutely necessary. The ship had been designed not only as a battleship, but as a symbol of Earth's ingenuity and resolve. Every crew member understood that demonstrating power, if needed, could prevent disaster, but they also knew it had to be done with restraint. It began unexpectedly. The alien vessel, for reasons the humans did not fully understand, activated a series of energy bursts along its surface. These bursts were not attacks, but they created small, rapid distortions in space that Aegis 01's sensors could not ignore. The readings indicated that the aliens were testing the limits of human technology, assessing response times, and perhaps gauging intent. The captain of Aegis 01 called a meeting on the bridge. Crew members gathered around, eyes fixed on the displays. "We've been patient, careful, and consistent in our communication," the captain said. "But it's clear that the aliens do not yet understand our capabilities. We need to show restraint and power at the same time. The next move must be precise. It must protect, not provoke." Orders were given to activate the ship's defensive systems in a controlled demonstration. The energy shields, designed to protect against the most extreme threats, extended outward. They formed a luminous barrier around the battleship, visible even from a distance. The crew watched as sensors registered the alien drones moving closer, testing the limits of the shield. When they touched it, they were neutralized instantly, not destroyed, but redirected safely away. The effect on the alien vessel was immediate. Flashes of light across its hull intensified, signals fluctuating wildly. It was clear that the aliens had never seen anything like this. The humans had not fired a single weapon, yet they had demonstrated control over destructive energy in a way that was both impressive and non-lethal. Next came a demonstration of mobility. Aegis 01 activated its advanced propulsion systems. The ship moved with precision, accelerating and decelerating in ways that made the surrounding space shimmer. Small kinetic fields projected outward, showing the aliens that the battleship could manipulate space itself. It was not aggression. It was a statement of capability, a way to show that Earth could defend itself without resorting to violence. The aliens responded with caution. Their drones hesitated, retreating slightly before reforming. It was clear that they were intelligent, capable of observing and interpreting human actions, but they were also cautious, testing boundaries. The crew of Aegis 01 felt a mixture of relief and pride. They had communicated not only with signals, but with action. They had demonstrated strength without threatening life. The captain then authorized a controlled projection of long-range energy pulses. These were not weapons aimed to destroy, but precise demonstrations of power like a visual language. Streams of energy arced gracefully from the battleship, bending around the alien vessel without causing harm. The crew watched in awe as the alien ship mirrored some of the movements, emitting light pulses that were almost like applause or curiosity. For the first time, there was a subtle shift in the alien vessel's behavior. Its energy readings stabilized, and the drones retracted completely. The vessel itself rotated slowly, as if examining Aegis 01 with deliberate attention. The humans could sense a change in tone. The standoff was easing. Mutual recognition was forming. The aliens understood that humans were capable, aware, and careful. They were not to be underestimated. The demonstration continued. The crew projected folded space energy fields, creating visible distortions in the void around them. It was breathtaking, not just to see, but to feel. The bridge was filled with an electric sense of achievement and awe. Humans were showing what they could do, not with aggression, but with intelligence, control, and restraint. The alien vessel responded with patterns of light that the crew interpreted as acknowledgement. Throughout the demonstration, no shots were fired. No one on the battleship wanted destruction. The goal was understanding, reassurance, and the creation of trust. The crew knew that a display of raw power alone could provoke fear, but showing mastery over their technology, while remaining measured, was the perfect balance. On Earth, scientists and leaders monitored the event with a mixture of anxiety and amazement. The data streaming in was unlike anything seen before. Energy readings, spatial distortions, and light patterns were recorded and analyzed in real time. Humanity had not only survived a tense encounter, but had asserted itself as a capable and intelligent civilization. The alien vessel's behavior suggested respect, or at least recognition, that humans were not to be underestimated. For the crew, it was a moment of quiet triumph. After days of tension, misunderstandings, and careful observation, they had reached a point where communication was more than signals. It was action, understanding, and mutual awareness. The alien vessel was no longer an enigma to fear. It was a partner in a slow, cautious dialogue, one that could shape the future of humanity's place in the stars. Even in this moment of success, the crew remained vigilant. They understood that the universe was vast and unpredictable, and that first contact could turn dangerous at any second. But they also understood the importance of restraint. By showing what they could do without causing harm, they had created a foundation for trust. The aliens had learned something about humanity, and humans had learned something about the aliens. The energy shields and propulsion displays continued, each maneuver precise, elegant, and deliberate. The bridge was filled with the quiet hum of machinery, the subtle tension of anticipation, and the awe of witnessing something extraordinary. Crew members exchanged glances, smiles, and nods, recognizing the significance of the moment. This was history being written in real time. The alien vessel responded with more complex patterns, subtle changes in energy, and occasional small pulses toward the battleship. It was a form of dialogue, unspoken but unmistakable. The humans interpreted these movements as curiosity and cautious respect. The realization that both species were learning from each other, step by step, filled the crew with a sense of hope and wonder. As the demonstration came to a close, Aegis 01 held its position, shields glowing faintly, systems humming softly. The alien drones retreated completely, and the vessel itself stabilized in orbit, calm but observant. The crew allowed themselves a quiet moment of reflection. They had shown capability, strength, and intelligence without aggression. They had proven that humanity could be measured, patient, and cautious, even in the face of the unknown. The captain addressed the crew with quiet pride. "We've shown them who we are," the captain said. "Not just with power, but with restraint, intelligence, and awareness. This is the beginning of trust. Remember, the universe is watching, and our actions here define who we are." The crew understood. They had not only defended their planet and themselves, but had also demonstrated what it meant to be human. Curiosity, courage, intelligence, and restraint had guided them through a tense, unpredictable encounter. They had learned that true power is not just in weapons or technology. It is in understanding, control, and careful choice. Outside, the alien vessel continued to observe, silent at times, radiant at others. Its behavior suggested that it now understood a simple truth. Humans were a species of intelligence, capable of both creativity and caution, of innovation and restraint. They were not to be underestimated, but they were not immediately dangerous either. The demonstration of Aegis 01's power marked a turning point. The alien vessel, for the first time, seemed genuinely curious about humanity. There were no further aggressive maneuvers, no defensive spikes, no drones testing the ship. The standoff had shifted into a new phase of tentative respect, careful observation, and the possibility of genuine dialogue. In that moment, the crew realized the significance of what had just happened. They had survived a near crisis, demonstrated the full capabilities of their ship without firing a weapon, and established the first real basis for trust with an alien species. The universe had taken notice. Humanity had stepped into a larger arena, not with fear, but with courage, intelligence, and restraint. The alien vessel remained near the moon's orbit, massive, silent, and enigmatic. Humans continued to observe, communicate, and learn. The demonstration of Aegis 01's power had changed everything. For the first time, humanity knew that it was capable of standing as an equal in the face of the unknown, ready to protect, understand, and engage with intelligence far beyond its own world. And in the quiet aftermath, the crew looked out into the blackness of space, feeling both small and significant at the same time. They had faced the unknown, and had done so with honor, intelligence, and courage. The galaxy was vast, unpredictable, and full of mysteries, but humanity had proven that it could meet the unknown not with fear, but with understanding, patience, and controlled power. After days of careful observation, communication, and controlled demonstrations, the tension in space began to shift. The alien vessel, once imposing and enigmatic, now seemed less like a threat and more like a partner in cautious dialogue. Humanity had shown restraint, intelligence, and capability, and in response, the aliens had started to respond in ways that suggested understanding, curiosity, and even respect. Aboard Aegis 01, the crew maintained a careful vigil. Every system remained active, every sensor monitored, yet there was a sense of calm. The aliens had stopped the defensive maneuvers that had caused tension earlier. Their drones hovered calmly, their energy patterns more measured, almost deliberate. The humans could sense that the vessel was studying them as much as they had studied it. There was a subtle rhythm emerging, a quiet understanding that neither side had anticipated in the first days of contact. The crew began to experiment with more advanced forms of communication. They sent sequences representing simple concepts like time, motion, and matter encoded in light pulses and energy patterns. The aliens responded in kind, their pulses growing more complex and deliberate. It was not language in the traditional sense, but it was a form of conversation, one that relied on intelligence, observation, and interpretation rather than words. Humans realized that trust was forming, slowly and delicately, across a gulf of unimaginable distance and difference. The alien vessel, enormous and sophisticated, had begun to recognize the intentions behind human actions. It understood that humanity was not reckless, not aggressive, and not impulsive. It understood that humans could be cautious, patient, and capable of careful reasoning. The breakthrough came when Aegis 01 projected a controlled demonstration of energy fields around the alien vessel, this time not as a warning, but as a gesture. The fields moved gracefully, wrapping around the ship without causing harm, highlighting the patterns of space and energy. It was a display of capability and control, a way of showing that humanity could act with power, but also with restraint. The alien vessel responded with flashes of light that seemed almost celebratory, a pattern that the crew interpreted as acknowledgement of understanding. On Earth, scientists and leaders observed the developments with awe. The alien vessel had not only recognized humanity's intelligence, but had also begun to engage in dialogue on a level that suggested comprehension and curiosity. Humanity had taken a significant step. They were no longer merely observers of the universe, but participants in a larger cosmic conversation. For the crew aboard Aegis 01, every signal, every movement, and every observation was a lesson. They understood that diplomacy was more than communication. It was about patience, observation, and empathy. By demonstrating control over their technology without causing harm, they had shown that humanity was capable of responsibility on a galactic scale. The alien vessel, for its part, began to reveal subtle patterns of behavior that suggested curiosity beyond simple survival instincts. It rotated to face different parts of the battleship, emitted light pulses of varying intensity, and moved with a grace that suggested awareness. The humans could sense that they were being studied, yes, but also that the aliens were trying to communicate in ways they hoped humans could understand. The first real step toward collaboration came when Aegis 01 sent a series of patterns representing basic mathematics and physical constants. These sequences were designed to be universal, a shared foundation for understanding. The aliens responded by mimicking the patterns, adding complexity, and even creating variations. It was a form of conversation that transcended language, relying instead on logic, observation, and shared perception. The crew felt a profound sense of connection. For the first time, humanity was reaching across the stars and being understood, not just recognized, but genuinely acknowledged by an intelligent species. It was a moment of awe, wonder, and quiet celebration. No weapons were fired, no threats issued, and yet the encounter had reached a level of understanding that few had ever imagined possible. On Earth, the public began to notice subtle changes in the night sky. Satellites captured images of the alien vessel's light patterns, which scientists interpreted as communication with humanity's signals. While most of the world did not fully understand what was happening, there was a growing sense of wonder, curiosity, and pride. Humanity had taken a first step into a larger universe, and the possibilities were endless. Back on Aegis 01, the captain authorized a new phase of interaction. The crew began to project gentle, controlled energy waves toward the alien vessel, creating visible distortions that were aesthetically beautiful but harmless. The aliens responded with complex light patterns that seemed deliberate, coordinated, and even artistic. The humans interpreted this as a sign of engagement, a willingness to participate in dialogue that went beyond survival or caution. This interaction marked a turning point. The alien vessel had moved from defensive caution to active engagement. It was beginning to recognize humanity not only as a capable species, but as a civilization worth observing, learning from, and perhaps even collaborating with. The humans, in turn, recognized that they were not alone, that intelligence in the universe existed beyond Earth, and that meaningful dialogue could be achieved without conflict. The next challenge was trust. While both sides had demonstrated capability, understanding, and restraint, trust was fragile. Any sudden movement, any misinterpreted signal, could undo the progress made over days of careful interaction. The crew of Aegis 01 remained vigilant, ensuring that every action was deliberate, measured, and predictable. They understood that trust was earned through consistency, patience, and careful observation. The alien vessel responded with continued light displays, sometimes slow and deliberate, sometimes rapid and complex. The humans began to recognize patterns, subtle changes that suggested curiosity, recognition, and even what could be interpreted as emotion. It was a slow, careful process, but it was real. Both civilizations were learning to understand each other, step by step, pulse by pulse. For the crew, the experience was transformative. They had faced uncertainty, danger, and the unknown, yet they had navigated it successfully. Humanity had shown that it could act responsibly, intelligently, and creatively in the presence of vastly superior technology. The lessons learned were not just technical, they were philosophical. Humanity had demonstrated patience, empathy, and foresight, qualities that would define its approach to future encounters. Finally, after days of careful engagement, the alien vessel approached Aegis 01 in a way that was deliberate but non-threatening. Its surface shimmered with light pulses that seemed coordinated, rhythmic, and even celebratory. The humans understood this as a gesture of recognition and acceptance. For the first time, there was no tension, no defensive posturing, only a shared awareness of presence and understanding. The captain allowed a moment of reflection. "We've shown them who we are," the captain said quietly. "Not just our technology, but our ability to understand, to communicate, and to act responsibly. This is the beginning of a relationship, one built on trust, respect, and curiosity." The crew felt a sense of accomplishment, unlike anything they had ever experienced. They had taken part in the first real contact with an alien civilization, and they had done so with patience, intelligence, and care. The experience would be remembered in history, not for conflict, not for fear, but for the human spirit reaching out into the unknown and being acknowledged in return. On Earth, scientists began to interpret the alien responses with increasing sophistication. Patterns were cataloged, sequences analyzed, and potential meanings hypothesized. Humanity had taken the first steps toward interstellar diplomacy, and the implications were staggering. The aliens were not hostile. They were intelligent, curious, and capable of understanding human intent. Humanity's reputation in the galaxy, though unknown to the wider universe, had already been established. The alien vessel remained near the moon's orbit, calm, curious, and radiant. Humans continued to engage, sending signals, patterns, and gestures designed to communicate concepts beyond language. Each interaction built trust, understanding, and the foundation for a potential alliance or cooperative exploration. It was a delicate dance, but one that both civilizations now seemed willing to participate in. For the crew aboard Aegis 01, the days that followed were filled with careful observation, communication, and reflection. Every pulse of light from the alien vessel was a lesson, every pattern a challenge to interpret. The humans had proven that they could navigate complexity, uncertainty, and potential danger, and in doing so, they had shown the aliens that Earth was a civilization worth respecting. The final realization came slowly, but clearly. Humanity had entered a new era. The first contact was no longer tentative. It was a relationship in its earliest stages, defined by curiosity, intelligence, and the cautious building of trust. The universe, vast and mysterious, had revealed a new possibility. The humans were not alone. That intelligent life existed beyond Earth, and that meaningful dialogue was possible. As the alien vessel floated silently against the backdrop of stars, Aegis 01 maintained its position, shields glowing softly, systems humming with quiet power. Humanity had survived uncertainty, navigated tension, and demonstrated intelligence and